Hi there, welcome. So in this video and in the next couple of videos, we will be learning about the positioning in CSS. Okay, so if I just go ahead inside of the browser, as you can see, there is a nice little credit card form here inside of the code pane. Now, as you can see, this credit card is an image and it is like floating on top of the this particular card, like the behind card, right? And it is floating halfway through. So how we can do that? Or we have this example. This is my personal website. Okay, my personal website here. And as you can see, if I just go ahead and just scroll up a little bit, right now the navigation bar sticks through the top, right? It is not going away. The content is not going away. The navigation bar is not going away as well. So how we can achieve something similar to this? So we can achieve these sort of effects by using the CSS position property. Okay, so the position CSS property sets how an element is positioned in a document. Okay, and in this video we will learn about the first CSS position property, which is the position static. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's learn about that. So I'll just add some paragraph of lorem. Okay, and I'll just copy paste that. Okay, so here is our paragraphs, and as you can see, everything is empty HTML here. We have only two paragraphs and the CSS file is also empty. So let's style the paragraph. So let's do a border of 2 pixels solid and black, and let's do a background color of blue violet. Okay, and let's do a color of white. All right, so if I just go ahead here, so here is our paragraphs, right? And the default positioning for the paragraph is static positioning. Okay, so the default positioning is static. So if I just go ahead and do set the position and then do static, okay, and hit save, and I'll just do that. So as you can see inside of the VS Code, the box is a normal box laid out according to the normal flow. Okay, so I'll just grab that. Okay, laid out according to the normal flow. The top, right, bottom, and left properties do not apply. And you might be thinking like, hey, where does it come from? So it is coming from here. So if I just go ahead here inside of the MDN, so the element positioned according to the normal flow. Okay, so this is the default position, which is the position static, and the top, right, bottom, left, and z index properties have no effect, which is very important. Like z index is something which we will definitely learn in the upcoming videos, but basically by using z index we can layer the containers or the boxes one on top of another. Okay, so z index is very important, but if the position is set to static, it has no effects. Okay, so here it is. So if I just set like something like top of 20 pixel something like that, so yeah, as you can see, nothing happens. So this is the default, which is the position static. Okay, now next up we will learn about the other positions. So if I go to the documentation once again, as you can see, there are a bunch of positions. We have the static, we have the relative, we have the absolute, we have the fixed, we have the sticky. Okay, and then we have some global values as well: inherit, initial, revert, layer, and unset. So these global values, we do not use them quite often, but these positions we use quite often, and we will learn all about them in the upcoming videos. Hi there, welcome back. In this video we will learn about position relative in CSS. So I'll just get rid of this position static and the top value from our paragraphs, and here we have the paragraph, and let's create another one. Okay, and then for the top, let's add a class of first. Okay, so we have the class here inside of this particular paragraph. Okay, so here what we can do first dot first, and then we can just add a different background color. Let's do something like this cadet blue. Okay, so hit save. So if I just go here, as you can see, our paragraph is now differently colored. So now let's learn about the relative positioning. So if we set position to relative, then what will happen? The element is positioned according to the normal flow of the document. This particular portion is similar to the position static. Okay, but then we have access to the top, right, bottom, left, and z index. Okay, if we set the position to relative. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So basically relative positioning is the static positioning, but with some extra benefits like this. All of these properties are enabled. Okay, so let's do that. So if I just go inside of the code editor and let's set the position to relative. Okay, now if I just say that, nothing will happen. Okay, so our flow is currently there and nothing will happen. But now we can set top to something like 40 pixel. If I just do that, then now as you can see, we have some blank space and our paragraph is starting 40 pixels below from the usual space. Okay, now we can add the other properties as well. Left as well. Left, let's do 40 pixel. If I just do that, then once again our paragraph is starting 40 pixel from the left. Okay, we can set the right as well, we can set the bottom as well. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But one thing to note here is that this particular blank space here, right, this particular blank space is there, so the footprint of this paragraph is still there. So if we position the paragraph with relative positioning, the footprint of the paragraph is still there. Okay, so there will be the blank space. Okay, so this is basically the relative positioning. Now what we can do, we can add some other things as well. So as you can see, we have this top to 40 pixel. We can set it to negative as well. So if I set it to negative 40 pixel, then our paragraph is starting from negative 40 pixel from the top. Okay, so we can set the bottom to negative 40 pixel as well. If I set it that, then what will happen? Our paragraph will be pushed down because the bottom is set to negative 40 pixels. Okay, so that is basically that. And then we have the left. If I just do something like this, and then once again our paragraph is starting from negative 40 pixel from the left. Okay, all right, so this is the relative positioning. So the main takeaway from this video is that relative positioning is similar to static positioning, but by using relative positioning, we have enabled the left, right, top and bottom CSS properties as well as the Z index CSS property. Okay, so this is the relative positioning in CSS. Hi, welcome back. In this video, we will learn about Z index in CSS. So let's get started. Before moving forward, what we can do, we can just add this one of left 40 pixel and let's do top of 60 pixel. Okay, it's safe. Now here, as you can see, our paragraphs are now stacked one on top of another. Okay, So now whenever this sort of situation happens and we want to control the layering, like which element has to be on top of the other, we can use z index for that. And z index only applies to the elements which are positioned, that means which are not static positioned, right? So if I just go here on our code and do something like z index, and let's do 1, or let's do 2, and let's do here z index of, let's do 1. Okay, so theoretically what should happen, this first one, this first paragraph should be below the other paragraph which we had. But if I just go here, nothing changes. Why is that? Once again, as you can see, these elements, the paragraph element or all of the other elements by default has the position set to static. So here what we can do position and set to relative. Okay, nothing will change, but now the order is now changed. And one thing which is quite visible from our example is that higher the z index, the higher the layer number itself. Okay, so if the element with the most amount of z index will sit on top and the other elements will sit on bottom of the layer. Okay, so here it is. So this is the z index basically. So we can change the layering by using z index. So here if I just use something like 4 right now, currently 4 is greater than 2, right? So that is why our first paragraph, like the paragraph with the class of first, okay, will sit on top of the other paragraphs which we has currently right now. So this is basically the z index in CSS. Hi, welcome back. In this video we will learn about the position absolute. So let's go to the documentation here. So what will happen if we use position to absolute? Then the element is removed from the normal document flow, okay? And no space is created for the element in the page layout. Okay, so this is quite drastically different from the other positions which we have learned, which is static and the relative. Here it is completely different. So let's try it out. So to do that, what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll just get rid of these ones and do dot box. Okay, just have some boxes. I have 4 boxes, and in the second one let's add a class of second. Okay, so yeah, all right, then go to the CSS, just get rid of everything. So dot box. Okay, let's add a height of let's say 250 pixel, width of 300 pixel, and let's change the height to 300 as well. Okay. All right, and then do a background color of something like brown. Okay, and we will select the second, and let's add a background color of something like blue violet. Okay, hit save, go to the browser, and as you can see, here is our boxes. Okay, and let's do one thing, is that display to in line block. Okay, so that we have all of the boxes set up nicely. Okay, now we have this second one, right? So if I just do something like position to relative and do something like top to 40 pixel. So what will happen is that this is not getting out of the document flow, right? The relative position is not getting out of the document flow, and the space is created for this element, and the space is reserved for this element as well. But now if I just do change the position to absolute, and okay, let me just do that. So absolute, hit save. Okay, now something different will happen. Okay, so here what is happening here is that our box is on top of the other box, right? This behavior is not common for the relative or the static positioning, but for absolute it is good. And also we have the top set to 40 pixel, and we can set the left set to something like 10 pixel as well. Okay, so if I just do that, as you can see, our box is floating around on its own, and the positioning is absolute, and the top and the left is calculated from the document body itself. Okay, it is calculated from the document body itself. But I will show the other thing as well. If the element which is absolutely positioned has some parent which is also positioned, then the behavior will be a little bit different, which I will definitely show it to you in the next video. But currently right now, as you can see, here it is. So we can do something like that, or we can do something like bottom to 10 pixel. If I just do that, and okay, we are setting top and bottom, and let's do left of 40 pixel and bottom of 10 pixel right now. So as you can see, our box is floating around on its own, and also the z index works properly with absolute positioning. Okay, so here it is. So the element is positioned relative to its closest positioned ancestor, if any. In our case, we do not have any, right? Or to the initial containing box, which is happening currently right now. Okay. Its final position is determined by the values of top, right, bottom, and left. Okay. And this value creates a new stacking context when the value of z index is not auto. Okay, once again, what it is saying is that the z index which we have currently right now, which we have learned, will work properly with absolute positioning. So this is basically the absolute positioning in a nutshell, and in the next video we will dive deep a little bit more in the absolute positioning when we have some different positioned uh, containers basically for our boxes. Okay, all right, so we have learned about position absolute. Now let's see what happens if the parent of the element which is positioned absolute has some other positioning rather than static. Basically it is positioned. So let's see what happens. So what I'll do, I'll just get rid of everything here. Okay, and inside of the box, what I'll do, I'll create another div. Okay, and here let's do a class of inner. Okay, all right, so we have the box and we have this one, so I'll just get rid of that, and we have the inner. Okay, inner, and here what I'll do, I'll do a height of 50 pixel and width of 50 pixels. Okay, now let's do position to absolute, and let's do top of 0 and do right of 0. Okay, so let's see what happened here. So we have this box. Okay, we didn't added any background color to this inner, so background color of blue violet. Okay, save. All right. So this is not new. So when we have positioned this particular uh, div with position absolute, it is following the root of our HTML page and it is getting positioned according to that. But now the box is the parent of this particular div, which is inner, right? So if I just do position of relative and save, now let's see what happens. Now we are seeing some different type of behavior. Okay. All right. So here what is happening, the position which we are setting to the absolutely position div, which is here, the top value and the right value is getting set relative to the parent element because the parent element has the position set to relative. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So whenever the parent element has some position set to relative or something else rather than static, then the absolutely positioned element, if it has some top, right, left and bottom values, it will be positioned relative to the parent. Okay, if we do not have any position inside of the parent, okay, then what will happen, it will default to the root of the page, which is in our case is the body. Okay, so here it is. Also, one thing which I want to show it to you here is that if I just create another div, inside of that we create another div, and inside of that we will just cut this one and paste it down here. So as you can see, we have added some levels, right? So we have the box div right here, then we have another div, then we have another div, and then we have the inner div. So here it is. Now if I just go to the browser once again, nothing will change, but if I add the position to relative as well, okay, and hit save, then once again it is setting relative to the parent. So the absolute positioning will work relative to the parent no matter what is the level of the element is. Okay, so we have multiple levels of element, multiple levels of div, but still the absolutely positioned element, which is this inner div, is positioned relative to the parent one, which is this box. Okay, so this is position relative. I know this is a little bit complicated to understand at first, but yeah, by the time goes, it will be very, very easy to understand. Okay, so this is position absolute in CSS. Hi, welcome back. In this video, we will learn about position fixed. Okay, so let's get started. So let's go to the documentation first. So here, if the element is positioned fixed, then what will happen? The element is removed from the normal document flow and no space is created for the element in the page layout. The element is positioned relative to its initial containing box, which is the viewport in case of visual media. Okay, so it is similar to absolute, but it is always relative to the containing initial containing block, basically the viewport or the body basically. Okay, its final position is determined by the values of top, right, bottom and left, right? And also if we scroll inside of our web page, then if the element is position fixed, then it will stay fixed at that particular position basically. Okay, so we will create a sticky navbar to explore the position fixed. Okay, so let's get started then. So what I'll do, I'll just get rid of everything here. Okay, and do a div. Okay, and let's add a nav. Nav. Okay, so nav bar. All right, and then after that I'll add a div, and inside of that I'll add a paragraph of Lauren of something like that, or times 30. Okay, something like this. All right, and then what I'll do is I will copy paste this paragraph a bunch of times. So copy and then paste, 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 paste. So I will do a bunch of the paragraphs here. Okay. All right. All right. So here it is. Here is our paragraph. So if I just go to the browser right now, so now we can scroll basically, right? So let's create the navbar here. So I'll just get rid of all of this and do the nav, and we can do something like a background color of blue violet. Okay, font size of 2 rem. Okay, and so let's first position it absolute. So position of not relative, absolute, and then do top of 0 and left of 0. So if I just save that currently right now and go to the browser, so we have our navbar here. Okay, let's add a color of white as well. So color of white. Okay, all right. All right, so we have the navbar here, but if I scroll, as you can see, our navbar is gone, right? So if we want to stick the navbar to that particular place, what we can do, we can add the position to fixed. Okay, and if we do that, then what will happen? Now we can scroll and our navbar is now fixed at that particular position. Okay, so let's make it a little bit more like a navbar. So top of 0, left of 0, and let's do width of 100% and to the right of 0 as well. So if I just do that, so we have the navbar. Now we are having some issues about cutting off some of the content. So what I'll do, I'll just so we have the div here, right? So I'll just select the div and do a margin top of 2 rem. Okay, I hope that will help. Okay, a little bit better. Let's do 4 rem. Okay, save. Okay, right now it is good. So now we have the sticky navbar with position fixed. So I hope that makes sense. So here it is. So this is the position fixed. So position fixed almost work like the position absolute, but it is always fixed in position with respect to the initial containing block. Okay, initial viewport basically. And I hope that you understand the difference between the position fixed and position absolute. Okay, all right. So this is position fixed in CSS. All right, so in this video we will learn about position sticky. So let's go to the documentation. So here it is. So if we set the position to sticky, then what will happen? The element is positioned according to the normal flow of the document, which is very, very important. And that is how it is different from absolute and fixed, right? And then offset relative to its nearest scrolling ancestor and containing block, the nearest block level ancestor, basically including table related elements based on the values of top, right, bottom and left, right? The offset does not affect the position of any other elements. Okay, so let's have it in action, right? So we have created this navbar previously. So what I can do here, I'll just get rid of this. Okay, so now what will happen? Our content will overlap, which is fine. But here what I'll do, I'll just add the position to sticky. Okay, and now if I save, what will happen? Currently right now our navbar is now here, right? and it is not overlapping with the other elements. And as you can see, the element is positioned according to the normal flow of the document. So our navbar is positioned according to the normal flow of the document. And now if I just scroll, then our navbar sticks to the top, and it is sticking to the top basically, right? So yeah, so this is basically that. So I would say this is basically position fixed with the element positioned according to the normal flow of the document basically, right? So this is the position sticky. So if you want to create a sticky navbar or sticky footer or something like that, you can use position fixed or position sticky to do that. So this is position sticky in CSS. Also, we can change these positions, right? The top, left, right, and bottom as well. So if I just do something like top of, let's do something like 40 pixel. Okay, hit save and go here. Now our navbar is 40 pixel offset, right, from the top. And also currently right now our content is overlapping, but as you can see, we can see the content here as well. So the top, right, left, and bottom, all of these CSS property will work properly with the position sticky as well.